Welcome to the April Technical Committee meeting. Members, please turn your cameras on during the roll call and also for the voting items. This meeting is being recorded. If anyone should experience difficulties during the meeting, please send a message in the chat box. At this time, Rebecca will start the roll call to determine member participation. Rebecca?
Good morning, everyone. City of Annapolis, Anne Arundel County.
Here.
Thank you. Baltimore City, Baltimore County,
Here.
Carroll County, Harford County.
Here.
Thank you. Howard County,
Here.
Queen Anne's County,
Here.
MDOT.
Yes, we're here.
Here.
Thank you. MDE, MDP,
Here.
MDOT MTA,
Here.
and MDOT SHA.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Carroll County is here as well. My apologies, my audio was off.
Oh, no worries. I'll go ahead and make that update. Thanks so much for letting me
Thank
know.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Our first item is approval of the minutes from the March Technical Committee meeting. Have members had a chance to review the minutes? Can I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Harford County will move to approve the March minutes.
Thank you, Sam from Harford County. Is there a second?
Howard County seconds.
Thank you, David from Howard County. We will now vote on approval of the minutes. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, please read down the list of members.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City, Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County.
Aye.
Thank you. Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The March minutes have been approved. We will now move on to Resolution 26-24. We will now consider sending Resolution 2624 to the BRTB for approval. The resolution is to consider approval of an addendum for the fiscal year 2026-2027 Unified Planning Work Program and associated budget. Todd?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. This will be our last presentation on the Unified Planning Work Program after 6 or 7 consecutive technical committee meetings on the UPWP. And we'll be asking the technical committee, as Angelica said, to recommend this to the full board at their April 24th meeting. Next slide, please. So just like to remind everyone about kind of the schedule. I've had this consecutive slide up for a number of months. We are in the middle of the slide at this point where on April 7th today, we are asking the technical committee to review and make recommendations to move this resolution forward. We're also going to review the comments and indicate some of the changes based upon the public comment period. Then this resolution will go forward to the April 24th elected official meeting here at the BMC offices. We'll then submit it to our federal partners, prepare local contracts, and the funding for this will begin July 1st, 2026. Next slide, please. So as was mentioned before, this is about a $12 million work program for fiscal year 2027. Funding sources come from our 2 federal partners at Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration, Maryland Department of Transportation chips in, and then BMC local funds go to finish out the local match. The funding goes to the BMC staff, but then also to local jurisdictional projects, as it has done in the past. We have some BMC consultants for general activities such as traffic counts, but then we have about $3.3 million for focus area consultants. Next slide, please. So as was proposed in the draft, we are proposing to move forward all of the recommendations from the draft that was put out to a public comment period, but we've made some small changes within a few of them, and I'll talk about them in the next slide. But let me run through them very quickly. Again, the Automated Delivery Vehicle Readiness Project, along with the Driverless Taxi Readiness Program. Again, those are coming to our region, and we want to make sure local jurisdictions in the state have all of the tools necessary to be able to properly regulate those as they start appearing on our transportation system. We're also proposing 30% design of another segment of the Bikeable Baltimore Region project. We are working with MTA and our local jurisdictions on bus rapid transit readiness. Enhancing local transportation public engagement, and expanding safety audits through the Vision Zero program. There is funding for the Household Travel Survey. We've been working again with the Maryland Department of Transportation to set up a statewide household travel survey, hopefully in this upcoming fiscal year. Working with MDE on some new mapping for inland flood analysis or nuisance flooding. Also then funding to look at the potential for rail authorities and how we might be able to infuse some additional funding into our rail program. Following up on the governor's announcement yesterday, we're proposing a transit-oriented development funding and financing program. Again, this would develop a toolkit based upon what you heard yesterday in the news. Then also working with MDOT, trying to expand some of the travel demand management programs within the region, and the potential to expand and extend our signal infrastructure inspections that wrapped up this previous fiscal year. Then we have a number of continuing programs, the LOTS training support, the TLC grants, the Transportation Planning Institute, and then funding to update local bicycle and pedestrian plans per the BBR. Next slide, please. So we put this out for a public comment period from February 8th to March 10th. Again, we are using the YourRegionYourVoice.org program. We received 436 visits to the actual site and had 28 participants provide 46 comments. Like to let you know kind of that we've sent out the comments and proposed responses to the technical committee, and we are asking you to review those. Let us know of any potential changes by the end of business day today so that we can get the comments back to the individuals who provided those comments. But just a quick little review of some of the comments we received. There was a request to provide some really clear standards in planning for bus rapid transit. There's a lot of interest in bus rapid transit. Looking at transit-supported development and the missing middle housing, that was kind of a theme of what we had heard yesterday with the governor's announcement and the mayor. And then looking at the potential for new regional bike ped corridors and trail connections, which is kind of followed up with some of the funding we're doing for BBR trail segments. The request to evaluate the impacts of highway expansion and congestion, the request to focus on implementing projects, not just do planning. Of course, our funding is just required. It can't go beyond 30% design, and it's meant for planning, but they do want us to try to focus on how to get projects out the door if possible. And then also provide training opportunities, especially to some of our first responders. So our work program, we've made some small changes to try to include some of these recommendations, made some small changes to some of the write-ups, and we also have some ideas for next year's work program. So with that, next slide, please. We are asking the technical committee to move forward with a recommendation to the BRTB for resolution 26-24, and I will turn it back to the chair for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Are there any questions? I now ask for a member to.
Oops, we have a question.
Dave.
Yeah, David here. One quick question, Todd. did the totals or the figures proposed a couple weeks ago change to this last round, or are we still in the same area?
So we're still exactly pretty in the same
Okay,
area. There
gotcha.
was some minor changes amongst a few of our local staff PIDs, but no, nothing really that changed outside of that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? I now ask for a member to move for approval of Resolution 26-24 and then a second.
Howard County moves.
Thank you, David from Howard County. Can I get a second?
Queen Anne's County will second.
Thank you, Steve from Queen Anne's County. We now ask if members of the public have any questions or comments on this resolution. No?
Chair, we do not see any member of the public requesting to speak in the chat box.
Thank you. We will now vote on sending Resolution 26-24 to the BRTB. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, can you read down the list of members?
Sure. Annapolis, Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City, Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County.
Aye.
Thank you. Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Rebecca. The resolution has passed. We will now consider sending Resolution 26-25 to the BRTB for approval. The resolution is to endorse a financial forecast through 2055 for the Long Range Transportation Plan. A representative from MDOT will present.
Madam Chair, Todd Lang here. I'm going to fill in for MDOT if that's okay.
Todd Lang will present. Thank you, Todd.
Since I'm already here, thank you. Good morning again, everyone. I'm here to present the financial forecast for the next long-range transportation plan. Again, this is known as Region Next 2055, and this is long-range transportation plan that you've heard about as we've been discussing goals and strategies and project scoring. But this is really one of the main elements of the long-range transportation plan, which we start out with, is the financial forecast. Because per the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Rule, this plan needs to be financially sound. So we need to understand the financial resources available to program within the plan. Again, we do this under the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Rule. And we utilize the forecast and methodology from our Maryland Department of Transportation for the years 2032 to 2055, because this long-range transportation plan will be adopted with the next year's transportation improvement program, which will be 2028 to 2031. So it's a long-winded start, but let's get into some of the tables if we could. Next slide, please. So the way that Maryland Department of Transportation starts this program is they do a statewide financial forecast, again, for the years 2032 to 2055. They do projections for operations, system preservation, and expansion, providing statewide totals for all of those different years. This is in millions of dollars, just so you understand. So next slide, please. Then the way they bring this down to the Baltimore region is they apply a couple of factors. So you'll see at the top in the gray boxes, what they do is they start with statewide expansion funds. Then they allocate a certain percentage of those to surface transportation. Again, MDOT is a comprehensive statewide program that includes not just highways and transit, but also includes ports and MVA and the airports. So they found that roughly 85.2% of the funding for expansions on a historical basis from 1981 to 2025 have gone to what we would call surface portion of statewide expansions. So we apply that factor. We add in some private funding that, typically comes in with some of these different types of projects. We then get to a total available, and then in a historic basis, the Baltimore region has received about 38.1% of the total statewide surface expansion funding. So that is the second percentage that is applied, and that gives us the percentages for the Baltimore expansion funds that will be available in this upcoming long-range transportation plan. That's the final column off to the right. Next slide, please. We then apply similar percentages and applications to the operations and system preservation funds. Again, a little bit different than expansion, but overall, this gives us the total available financial forecast for the next long-range transportation plan known as Region Next for the year 2032 to 2055, including operating funds, system preservation funds, and expansion funds for the Baltimore region. And this is your table. Next, we'll give you a comparison of what this looks like to previous long-range transportation plans financial forecasts. Next slide, please. So this is the last 5 different long-range transportation plans dating all the way back to the one that was adopted in the year 2011. So you'll see that as we would expect, the program has grown over these past years, but we've seen really a dramatic increase since the last adoption of Resilience 2050 just a few years ago. This breaks down the operating, system preservation, and expansion funding that was available in all of these different long-range transportation plans. You'll see that, as we would expect, operating funds have grown pretty dramatically and have grown very dramatically since the last long-range transportation plan, as has system preservation. But where we used to see kind of a drop in projected expansion funding, we now have a rise. In the last long-range transportation plan, there was about $12 billion that the BRTB was able to forecast. That is now projected by MDOT to be up at $19.8 billion for this upcoming long-range transportation plan. Now, we are programming one more additional year, but again, that is a fairly dramatic increase. And what we're hearing from MDOT is, this is based upon recent revenue increases that have happened at the state and then also at the federal level. So again, fairly dramatic increases. So this should allow for some of the inflation and expected cost increases we expect from some of the projects in the long-range transportation plan. Next slide, please. We also look at kind of the composition of these different types of funding and their percentages. What we have seen is operating is roughly normally between 51 and 56% of the available funding. It's gone down a little bit in terms of the percentage this year, but we always see kind of an increase in the system preservation funding. Things are getting more expensive to maintain. That has continued with this upcoming financial forecast. We had been seeing kind of a drop in the available expansion percentage that did expand in this upcoming projection for Region Next 2055. Next slide, please. Here's how the methodology for how MDOT provides these forecasts. First of all, federal funding that goes to WMATA is not included within this program. That would kind of throw off some of the percentages. But what they do is they've used a historical annual average growth rate of 4.5% for state funding for the upcoming program. Federal fund projections are average growth rate of 3% for highways and 2.1% for transit program funds. Those, again, are typically based upon historical averages. For the operating side, what they do is they look at the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers. So that's the CPIU. And then they add 1% for basically the additional expansion funding or operating funding for any new projects that come into the long-range transportation plan. And they do this based upon information from two different economic forecasting firms. Next slide. On the system preservation side, what they do is they've applied an annual growth rate of 2.5%, and they make sure that it's not to exceed 75% of the total program. And you'll see that, again, based on the percentages that we showed in an earlier chart, that is true. And then on the Baltimore area, the way that they break out our percentage is they look at the location-specific SHA and MTA projects that have happened to try to develop that percentage. And then they take 81% of the MTA area-wide projects and about 37% of the SHA area-wide projects. And that's how we get to that percentage breakout for the Baltimore area of the total statewide funding. Next slide, please. So here's the actual document that we received from the Maryland Department of Transportation. Just wanted to make sure that we include this in the presentation. So if you want more detail, you could zoom in on it. But next slide. All of the different tables that we had presented are based upon the tables that were actually in the memo that will be part of the resolution that we'll bring forward as part of the recommendation for Resolution 26-25. I think that's it. Next slide. Just again, this was produced through the Assistant Secretary of Transportation Investments at the Maryland Department of Transportation. Here's Jacqueline's contact information, and then of course, Zach and my information if you want to ask any questions through us. With that, we go back to the chair and ask if there are any questions that we hopefully might be able to answer. But again, we apologize that MDOT was not able to send a rep from that group. Madam Chair, we ask you to move forward Resolution 26-25.
All right, thank you, Todd. I now ask for a member to move for approval of Resolution 26-25.
Queen Anne's County will make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Steve. Queen Anne's County.
Howard County can second.
Thank you, Dave, from Howard County. Zach, do you have anything in the chat box?
No,
Chair?
there's not currently anyone requesting
Okay.
to comment in the chat box.
Okay, thank you. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, can you read down the list of members?
Excuse me, Annapolis, Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore County. I'm sorry, Baltimore City. Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County.
Aye.
Thank you. Queen Anne's County
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Rebecca. The resolution has passed. Mr. Nigam and Mr. Kumar will present an overview of the data collected for the SHA Monthly Economic Indicator Report. Mr. Nigam and Mr. Kumar.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our data that we like to share with everybody else in the world. I mean, we have it available for everybody to use. Just to give us a little background, we are from consultants for the Office of Planning and Preliminary Engineering Data Services Division, and we'll go over the volume trends and VMT dashboards. So just a quick overview of what our office does. We are providing HPMS data to Federal Highway. We're doing TMS, which is the program counts and coverage counts across the state. We're doing continuous counts, which are the ATRs, which are the backbone for the VMT and the trends that we're going to talk about. OMARC is the one Maryland One center line where we're trying to have this center line for the entire state, and state and local, which maintains the mileage and roadway characteristics for the whole state. This is what's required. The other piece, the traffic and the mileage, which is required to get the VMT out of it. We have a data collection section, which does inventory projects. And we also have a mapping section, which creates official tourist maps and grid maps. Just a little quick background about the continuous counters. We have about like 60 plus continuous counters across the state. They are counting 24/7, 365 days, rain or shine, they should be counting. Again, we have different types of counters. Some of them are in-ground sensors, some of them are radar, and some of them are video. Some of them will be doing class, speed, and volume. They'll be collecting individual vehicles, so you know the exact length, axle length, the axle width, the length of the car, and all particular details, and the federal 13-bin classification for them. We publish this data on SHA's website. You can get the data, by direction, by hour. And if you have you'll have to reach out to us, but then we can also give you by lane or per vehicle records as required. We don't publish that online just because it becomes too much. But other than that, we put that in. As far as the mileage section, as we were talking about, for example, SHA maintains 15,000 miles of lane miles. But if you include the county, municipal, and toll maintained, we're like 54,000. And now we verify data on 69,000 because it includes the ramps, CD lanes, and other auxiliary things. This section creates detailed inventory of roads, all the roads in the state. They track and maintain all the administrative attributes like the function class and other things. We store all physical attributes about these roads, and we have publications like the HLR, which are used throughout the state with different offices look at the inventory of each road. Basically, our office has the base inventory where all the SHA and other infrastructure is laid up on. The mile points are coming from our office. Coming to the dashboards, the thing that you guys were looking at to get started. This is our main dashboard. I mean, guess we did try and put things together. The intent was that you can get one place where you can come and get a whole lot of information at one place easily. We have integrated dashboards in here. We have integrated mileage dashboards in here as well. We have some applications as well, like ITMS and ADT Locator. And email me, I might just talk to you about it for a second after we're done with this. So starting off with the volume trends. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Sorry, for a second I thought you couldn't. Then I was like, oh my God, what did I do?
No, you're good.
Cool. All right, so this is our homepage. We're starting off with the volume trends. Volume trends, the basis of this is the continuous counter program that we just talked about. So basically taking data from all the continuous counters, we have made an in 2026, we were able to update this and include chart devices. So we had 60 devices which are maintained by M.SHA from our office, from DSET. Then we've been working with Chart with their ITS equipment and trying to collect data from them as well and integrate it into our program. We have brought in about like 40 sites into our program from them. That's helped bolster our traffic counting program. And it doesn't cost the state too much because, well, we're just using the same data which has already been collected, integrating it into our database and using it for our purposes. So, for example, now this is our volume trends database, just talking about purely volumes right here. These are the locations on the left. You can see map. You can zoom in if you want, and the whole thing will filter based on that. So the data on the right will be based on the map. So if you zoom into a certain section, it will reflect the data coming out for that time frame. You can see the distribution of how much is interstate, arterial, other rural, urban distributions. day of week. Uh, you have comparing it to the AADTs from last year. Now, the point of this was generally a dashboard is meant for people to just, okay, I just see the information and move with it. But we wanted to take it further and make it a tool for analysts and other people to see. So where even the managers can kind of just have a couple of clicks and get to see what the trends are doing. Okay, hey, as far as day of week, I know Sunday is coming down this year. In 2026, Sundays have been really down. What is the reason? We had a couple of snowstorms coming through. That probably affects that a little bit. But now if you start looking at towards the month, you can start seeing the individual. You can see 2026, we have only 2 months for January, February, because we published the data after maybe 10 days because UNC finished up the validations for the month. And then we are able to publish the data. So right now we have January and February available. You can compare it to the years last year. There was a lot more drastic stuff happening when COVID was happening. We've now, so that's in the past. But what we're doing is we're showing you the last 3 years with the current year, but you have option of going back and changing the year. You can take the data back up to 2019 if you wanted to. It just becomes slower because when you're pulling so much data into it, it just becomes difficult to see and see what's going on. So right now we don't do that and we just keep it to a current set. This data, you can also filter it by day of week, month, you can weekdays. You can, if you wanted to, you can select the county that you're looking for. Okay, I'm looking for only Baltimore County. I can select Baltimore County, and all the data accordingly would be filtered out to only Baltimore County. On the side, because Baltimore you see only one district, but you could also look at the station IDs. So it'll tell you which exact station, traffic station, the data is coming from. You can compare different individual stations, which year, how the traffic station was doing. In Baltimore, I guess you would see that information of 695 where the Key Bridge, because of that, there's no traffic data coming in on that side. We have the option of digging this down right into the hour. So, but it's because it becomes so much bigger data set, we kind of created a separate dashboard. So you can kind of dig in, like if you're looking for trends, hey, is the traffic on 695, the peak hour shifting from what it was before? Okay, you can try and start looking at this. Just because the Zoom, it just takes a little while to update. Otherwise, all of this is available on the web, so you can kind of go through and check it out and play with it. Like, okay, is the peak different? Is the peak changing? If you want to look at the weekdays, this is the weekdays. You have a lot more defined afternoon, morning peak. Weekends, you would have a single peak going on almost to the day. You can see the differences. If you needed, okay, hey, I'm more focused on February just to see what happened. You can kind of see what happened and what years, what was going on. In 2025 and 2026 were similar, but 24 and 23 were a little bit higher. So you can kind of do what you wanted, like if you wanted to filter down the year, months, the hour of the day, you can change that up too. And so you can trim the graph as you want to do. All the data that you have, because you may do this as an extraction tool as well. Like, okay, I'm looking at this data, I'm trying to see certain aspects of it. I had my definition said, okay, I'm only looking for rural in February, what was happening. If you wanted to download the data, you can click on here and download summarized data. It will download the CSV for the graph, so you can look at the graph. Or if you wanted the detailed data, which is a little bit more, then you have to go back and do the analysis, you can download the source data as well. So we give you both options. That way you are able to kind of look through it and get that going. The other one we have was the VMT trends, which Anil is the main one who does the stuff. We have this started from Federal Highways thing, because Federal Highway does a volume trends estimation monthly volume trends as they have been publishing. We have been following similar routines as Federal Highway. We work with Federal Highway to kind of come up with the routines. Now, the good part is we do this on a monthly basis based on our ATRs, but our annual VMT estimation is almost within like 2%. Like last 15 years I've been doing this, it's been within 2% of the actual VMT. So these are reflective of what is actually happening. So you can look at the VMT for the last few years, and 2026 we have the monthly available for you. We also have notes on here. So VMT in February changed, and then monthly VMT percentage was 0.1% compared to the same time last year. So you can get some more information right there. We have this data available in a tabular format, just in case for people who like it in a table format. So you can see 2022, 2023, and each month available. Just wanted to make a note, 2025 is still an estimate. This is because VMT is based on the mileage multiplied by the AEDT. AEDT is finalized, but the mileage is not yet finalized. It gets finalized in June when we do our HPMS submission. So that's when this will become finalized. But the number of pretty close, because last years we have been doing this, comes within 2% of our estimate. The other thing that we have over here is also freight VMT, because that's something which we added, which provides a lot of value to our engineers, because you can see the difference. Like it looks much more varied than our VM volumes, because volumes, majority of the things are cars. So it's the trucks have a very small percentage when it gets diluted when you look at the other one. But here you can see there is a lot of changes that happen in different years. And we match this data to the CAS index published by the Federal Highway, and we've been matching them pretty closely. So the trends that we are showing are not just data anomalies, but also can be matched up in the CAS index. And again, you can have this data available in a tabular format if you wanted to. And you can see this. You can also download this data if you wanted to. All our data is available for download. So these are some of the reports. We also have a couple of the other dashboards, which is going to just run through it in 2 seconds. We have a mileage summary dashboard, which basically tells us what is the VMT, what's the mileage in the road, how much SHA and toll has, what is the distribution of AVMT mileage between SHA, toll, county, municipal, all. You can kind of, some of the information that you would really want to get on the fingertips, most of these things that uses sound bites in different places, those things are available. We also have them connected to actual charts and graphs where you can go in and kind of see the data coming in. So you can see graphs of miles by function class, lane miles by function class, AVMT by function class. So this is just a graphical formulation of the same data that you're seeing the other place. And this one, I just want to bring this up because this is my personal pet project. Email me. This started when we used to get emails from our executives, people who were in meetings and they were running late. They're at the meeting, 6 o'clock in the evening, they're getting texting, hey, what's the ADT on this particular road? Like, I'm already home. I'm trying to log in quickly and trying to get the answer back, but it takes too long. They need the answer right away. So what we're trying to do is this email me. We have a cover for it, where you can put your email address in, say whether you want data for a corridor or just a historical report for a particular location. If a corridor report, then you can say something like, okay, I want 95, I want 695, I want whatever you're looking for. Put the road in, and you say if you want Excel, or if you don't say anything, you'll be emailed a report with the PDF of that information. So the advantage of this is you can not only do it from this website, but you can just send an email to tmsdata@mdot.state.md.us, like right here, TMS data, and you can just send it from your Outlook directly and you get the answer for what you're looking for. Oh, I'm looking for Maryland 27. What's the data on there? You can just send out an email and you will get it right into your email box. So, whoops, sorry, 1 second. There you go. Oh, hey, where'd you go? I know I'm doing this wrong. Sorry. There you go. Well, I just wanted to kind of give you some contact information. Warner Schlau, our division chief. That's me. You're a consultant, and Anil Kumar, who's also a consultant. Any questions for anybody?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for running us through that very useful information. And I needed a refresher of all you guys offer. So I'm sure it's something we'll be tapping
Yeah.
into. So thank you for taking the time to run us through that.
I appreciate that. And if you ever have any questions regarding traffic or anything, please reach out and we'll be ready to help you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oops.
Thank you so much. We will now go through UPWP updates. Ms. Cindy Birch will provide an update on roadway safety initiatives in the Baltimore region. Cindy?
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm just going to, let me get my screen up. Hopefully everybody can see that. I'm just going to flip through a few of the things that are going on here at BMC. A lot of you are very integral parts of it, so feel free to chime in or ask any questions if you have them. I'm going to touch on a few things today, some regional programs, and then at the end, touch on some of the state things with strategic highway safety plans and the Vision Zero group at the state level. But we'll start out with our Look Alive regional campaign. We've had that for about 8 years now. We currently have a grant proposal into the Highway Safety Office to continue it. It's a year-by-year grant renewal. And as hopefully everyone's aware, Signal is Look Alive with Signal Woman. She is the pedestrian signal that come to life, steps out of it and gives safety tips to both pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers. This middle picture here was some of our recent creative from a couple years back where she got in the back seat and was actually advising drivers. So it wasn't just focused on pedestrian behavior. So part of that campaign, we do an annual public survey. It's actually a telephone survey, and we still get a lot of folks answering the phone. So that's great. And we're getting, by industry metrics, we're getting really good response rates. About half of the respondents recall seeing it without too much prompting as to what it is. They recognize the brand of Look Alive, and they all have, the ones that do recall it have positive feedback, calling it relevant, memorable, and motivational. Just as far as some of the outreach we do besides paid media and social media messaging, we have a virtual reality challenge. I don't have a picture here, but it's a white Camaro that you actually sit in and you put virtual reality goggles on and you watch on the screen. You're supposed to spot where the pedestrians and bicyclists are as a driver. And it's playing out on this large screen so everyone around you can see it as well and almost get that competitive nature to it. Who can get better scores than the next? And whenever we have that, we also have, you can see it looks like a pedestrian signal box where people can take selfies with. And we have, you know, the sayings and different things to try to get folks engaged with the safety messaging and safety tips. Something new we started last year, we're calling it an event toolkit. It's basically packaged here at BMC and anyone can sign it out and use it. It comes with a tablecloth, a trivia wheel, and a pop-up banner with a face cutout. We also have a step stool because a lot of our younger folks, our little kids, love doing that. We want them to be able to reach up there and stand up tall into the banner and get their picture taken. So it's a very portable thing. Anyone can sign it out and use it for their events. We also have monthly social media toolkits. And in the past year, we've worked with Anne Arundel County and Howard County to do some messaging on local transit vehicles and bus stops to try to get to that target group too, as people are getting on and off the buses, and also the drivers as they pass the buses to remember that there's pedestrians once they get off the bus. The next thing we're doing regionally is a bicycle safety grant. This is also through the Highway Safety Office. Our grant year is about to end June 30th, but we do have another proposal in to extend this, and that's to provide bicycle helmets for local outreach and safety events. We've had requests from all of our jurisdictions across the region, which is very exciting. Wide range of agencies, police, fire, schools, anybody, Office of Transportation, planning partners, everybody, to find ways to either get out to schools or rec centers or things like Bike to Work Week coming up. We'll provide the helmets, we'll get them direct shipped to folks so they can, and we also have educational materials from the Highway Safety Office we can provide. Like I said, here's a lot of local participation. It runs the gamut of everyone here. So we really appreciate everyone's interest and participation in this program. This was our pilot year, and I think the state's very happy with how it's gone off. In our UPWP projects, we currently have one going on now about telematics data and trying to find out if and how we could procure that information to help supplement your local safety planning. We all rely on crash reports quite a bit as far as a data point for identifying either locations or behaviors to try to mitigate, but this telematics data could help us determine whether there's hard braking, fast acceleration, cell phone use, things like that that may not result in a crash happening, but are behaviors we want to know where they're happening. So so far we've been through task 1, and thank all of you and your staff who participated in our survey to find out what is happening here in your agencies. And now the consultant is interviewing different telematics providers to ultimately in August provide us recommendations as to what would be a good fit, because there's a lot of folks out there with telematics information trying to sell it all to us. So we will have a presentation in an upcoming tech committee meeting for all of you to hear the results of this project and provide your feedback. And again, I just want to thank all of you and your staff for participating in the survey. We had 13 responses. It was about a 20-minute survey, so it was a little bit of time off their plates, but we do appreciate all the great feedback. And again, a variety of folks from law enforcement, planners, engineers, schools. So we got a good feel for the region. Okay, so again, this is just some other things about what the consultant's ultimately going to do. They are going to make it a quantitative approach to evaluate each of the vendors. And then we're having a steering committee actually later this week, and we're going to talk to the group about that to be sure we're moving forward in the right direction. Coming up, Todd mentioned earlier in the upcoming UPWP is a project for expanded safety audits. And the idea for this is to try to standardize or document a standard way to expand typical road safety audits to multidisciplinary teams. Like a lot of your local safety or SHSP teams include the school system, the health department, all of our traffic stakeholders, pardon me, in these site visits. And it may be based on crash data. It may be based on the Vision Zero perspective with fatal crashes. It may be based on high injury networks. That's also something the consultant would identify as a prioritization methodology for us to identify sites, run the whole process, manage the logistics, and have a template for a final report. So we can have uniform findings. And the goal is to have at least one in every jurisdiction by the end of next year. So hope to get an RFP out on the street soon once all the approvals are in place, and we can start this project in the coming fiscal year. Sorry, jumped ahead. Like I said, the tasks are helping to build those local teams, of which many are in place for your local SHSPs, identify the sites, and conduct safety audits. And ultimately, the deliverables we want for that project is that documented prioritization methodology and process, both data collection tools and report templates. So all of you can use them as you so choose, or maybe we expand and continue this project after we see how this first year goes. As far as local strategic highway safety plans, good job. Everybody has them. You've been hearing me talk about that for 8 years as well. I do have stars up there because everybody's also gotten Safe Streets and Roads for All funding. So we actually just got the notice of funding opportunity for the final round of Safe Streets and Roads for All. Those applications are due the end of May to USDOT. So you'll also be hearing from me in the coming days, or your staff will hear from me about if we want to put together a workshop, discuss, share ideas as we've done in years past. But as you can see, everybody's gotten funding through this program before, so you have great experience with it. And hopefully we can finish out strong with this final round as well. There is a link at the bottom of the page. All of the local SHSPs in the state are posted on the Highway Safety Office's website. So even if you want to see other folks, other municipalities or counties or cities, you can find them on that zerodeskmd.gov website. And lastly, as far as the state, they have just updated their SHSP for 2026 to 2030. It's still waiting final approval from Federal Highway, but it is posted on that Zerodesk website, so you can review it if you like. Unfortunately, emphasis areas didn't change from the last one. We still have our same major problems with impaired driving, distracted, speeding, and non-motorist safety. There's also an infrastructure improvement emphasis area in there as well. So still moving forward at the state level. They have emphasis area team meetings every quarter. If anybody's interested, I can certainly hook you up and give you information to participate. And then they also have quarterly Vision Zero public meetings where it's posted online. You can watch it online. They go through updates for the SHSP, how everything is progressing, and they also review those fatality infrastructure reviews. So those are where there's a non-motorist fatality on a state roadway. State Highway Administration, there's a law, they have to go out and review it. So the committee sits and talks about everything, comes up with any ideas or recommendations, and reviews the case. When there are ones local to our region, I've reached out to you to see if you have any local input to put in there. And I appreciate everybody's cooperation and feedback with that. So the next meeting is coming up actually next week, I believe. And here's the website you can go to get more information. If you want, you can watch recordings of past meetings, see how they go, and also get the agenda for the upcoming ones. The April 16th meeting information, if it's not already posted, it should be soon. But again, that's zerodeskmd.gov on their website. And one last plug, the National Lifesavers meeting is coming to Baltimore. That's in 2 weeks. It's a great meeting where traffic safety practitioners from around the country, sometimes other countries, come to network and share ideas. Eileen Singleton here out of BMC has organized a traffic incident management training workshop on the Saturday before the conference. We already have over 41 people registered for that, so we're very excited for the level of interest. She's also worked on a traffic incident management session with our local partners, including our engineering partners in Carroll County. So we're very excited to showcase with our timber committee and other folks from around the region at this national conference. And it's going to be held down here at the Baltimore Convention Center. And that's all I had today. If anybody has any questions, you can say something now, you can talk to me later, but there's certainly a lot going on. So thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Are there any questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to Mr. Tim Briggs, who will present on transit safety performance targets for the Baltimore region. Tim?
Hi, good morning. My name is Tim Briggs. I'm the transit planner at BMC, and I'm going to give an update on transit safety performance measures. So first, I want to take a minute to talk about transit safety. If you look at the table at the top, this is data from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics from 2000 to 2014. And you can see that for public transit passengers, whether it's urban rail or bus, they have far lower casualty rates than automobile occupants. Looking at some more recent FTA and Bureau of Transportation Statistics data, we can see that transit systems are safer than roadway travel for both occupants and non-occupants, but certainly there's still potential for improvement. So just want to kind of highlight the overall ecosystem for transit safety as we move into the performance measures. So this is kind of a review, but for folks that haven't been part with us through the last LRTP, the Federal Transit Administration issued some guidance in 2019. All federally funded transit agencies must develop annual safety plans that include performance targets for fatalities, injuries, safety events, and system reliability. And for the metropolitan planning organizations, they need to include safety performance targets in their short and long range planning process. So here is a summary of the MDOT MTA Maryland Transit Administration's 2025 safety performance targets for each of their modes. As you can see, the targets are presented as both a whole number and as a rate per 1 million vehicle revenue miles. And then there are system reliability targets, the miles between major mechanical failures, which are a combination of internally developed metrics and contractually agreed upon targets. There was an update since the last MPO adoption in 2024. As part of the bipartisan infrastructure law, there was required the FTA to establish performance measures for safety risk reduction programs, specifically targeting transit worker safety and reduction of collisions. So the inclusion of collisions targets aligns with the U.S. Department of Transportation's National Roadway Safety Strategy, which aims for zero fatalities, something Cindy, I'm sure, is very familiar with. And the transit worker assaults is sort of related to some data that the FTA was tracking. And from 2014 to 2024, there was a 232 increase in assaults against transit operators. So those are some of the reasons for the new updated guidance on the performance targets. So here are those new targets, again, for MDOT MTA's modes, showing the collisions and transit worker safety. Collisions is broken down into an overall rate of collisions, as well as a breakout for vehicular collisions and pedestrian collisions. And then the transit worker safety targets are shown as a rate per 1 million vehicle revenue miles, which is a way of saying how much the bus is in operation, as well as the total number of assaults in the period. So the target setting process, it's a slightly different process between MDOT MTA and the locally operated transit systems. For the locally operated systems, one thing that's really important to understand with the targets is that the process is really reflective of the different operating contexts. Some agencies directly operate their service, others use contracted services, and that sort of impacts a little bit of some of how the data is tracked, which then impacts the targets because they're using historical data to develop the targets. MTA is using predominantly 5-year averages of NTD, National Transit Database data. The lots also use historical data, typically 3 to 5 years. The reporting of data to the NTD is different based on the size of the organizations, and not all that data has been tracked for quite as long as for like the MTA. For the lots, the targets are reviewed and approved by their transit administrator, their safety committee, if applicable. Again, smaller agencies aren't required to have a safety committee, and their executive leadership. And the MDOT MTA, their Office of Local Transit, also provides support and guidance on the safety plans. For MTA, their organization is larger. Targets are reviewed by modal leadership, MTA Joint Safety Committee, State Safety Oversight Agency before approval by MDOT MTA administrator, and executive leadership. So this is information that's been through multiple levels of review and discussion by internal committees prior to being shared with the MPO. So I just want to talk broadly about like the application of safety targets. So what are they used for? So one example would be to track data to analyze short and long-term trends. And I'm using some examples here just based on some agencies that I'm familiar with. So RTA, the Regional Transit Agency for Howard County and Anne Arundel and PG. One data point that is important to know is major events, so incidents on the system. So I pulled some data showing targets versus actuals, and this is actually something that the RTA monitors every month at their quarterly board meetings. They report a summary of major events and to their board of directors, and then this in turn informs some of their targets. Another way that we can apply the targets is to focus training to address areas that need improvement. So in the city of Baltimore, for injuries, their actual data was exceeding their targets for a couple of years. And one thing that they were required to do in their safety plan was to develop supplemental safety targets for operator training in order to sort of address some of the issues they were having with injuries. Lastly, you could use safety targets to prioritize funding of projects to improve safety. So, for example, the pedestrian collision rate could be a target that would be applicable for complete streets projects. So for the BRTB and the tech committee, there's some considerations that I just want to present. This is an informational item, but it could be something through discussion or through conversations with staff that we decide to look further into. But as I mentioned at the beginning, the targets will be part of our upcoming long-range transportation plan. And so we have a couple of different options for what we can do in terms of the targets. So the first thing is adopting the safety targets that are set by the MTA and the state and the local agencies. And this is what the BRTB did during the last RTP cycle. So we could continue to do that practice. We could also develop regional targets for use in the LRTP and the TIP. But I think one thing to keep in mind with having a regional target, so we would kind of have to take into account that there's a lot of different operating contexts in the Baltimore region. We have operators that cover urban, suburban, and rural parts of the region. So we would have one target for all of those different operators, and whether or not that's appropriate to the context would be something to discuss. Lastly, I think you could select a specific target to set for the region. So you could choose an aspirational target. So you could set a goal for like 0 fatalities. That would be like in line with Vision Zero, or you could choose another measure that aligns with some of the priorities of the BRTB. So this would be something for us to consider going forward as we move toward the adoption of the targets. We're still kind of finishing up a cycle of target adoption locally, and then we'll be moving on again to the next cycle for the upcoming LRTP. I want to close with some recent transit safety initiatives just to highlight the actions of our different agencies. So MDOT MTA recently introduced a new app for riders where they can report safety concerns. It's called CSAY. They also developed a rider code of conduct to create a safe transit environment. One of our locally operated transit systems, Anne Arundel County, they've completed a safe routes to transit study. So looking at some of their infrastructure, how can they reduce collisions or other issues for folks that are traveling to transit. They trained all their operators in wheelchair securement and they've installed onboard bus cameras. And then the BRTB has supported safety trainings through our partnership with the Transportation Association of Maryland. Some topics, recent topics include customer service and de-escalation, accident reporting, operator fatigue, and violence in the workplace. So if you have any questions or would like more information, please reach out to me. My contact information is below.
Thank you, Tim. Next, we will have Zach provide an update on Region Next 2055. Zach?
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Today's update on Region Next 2055, the next long-range transportation plan, will focus primarily on the call for projects. Most of you should have received an email yesterday launching the call for projects. Project submissions are due by Wednesday, June 17th. I think you're all aware of this, but local jurisdictions submit their priority projects, both roadway and transit projects within their jurisdiction, and then MTA also submits priority projects. Of course, there is also coordination on roadway projects with MDOT and SHA, but the local jurisdictions are the submitters of those projects. So the LRTP is going to be considered in July of 2027, along with the 2028 to 2031 TIP. We kind of view the TIP and the long range plan as one kind of continuous document. So Region Next starts the next year, the time horizon, starting in 2032 and extending through 2055, meeting that requirement for extending at least 20 years beyond the time frame covered for the TIP. So the LRTP must include major capital and capacity expanding projects that are anticipated to use federal funds in that time frame of 2032 to 2055. So if your project will be completed or request all funds by 2031, it would not have to be submitted for Region Next, but would rather be included as an existing and committed project in Region Next. In the materials I sent, first I sent a form that you are familiar with, the Highway and Transit Project Submittal Form. Most of this form is the same. We did make some minor adjustments to reflect proposed updated technical scoring criteria. So we added an area collecting information on crash modification factors based on that criterion for highway safety. We adjusted the complete streets section of the submittal form to account for a scoring criterion that looks at low stress features that are included in the project. We slightly adjusted the emissions reduction components of the environmental scoring section, though that question was largely there before, so there's not much of a change. For system security, we added a resilience criterion. So we asked some questions about resilience strategies related to flooding, heat, and cyber security. And we are also asking for some information on TSMO and non-SOV strategies incorporated into the project as part of a highway mobility criterion. That said, that information was largely being collected already through questions about congestion management process strategies. So no real new information being collected there. So as part of the materials we provided, I sent all your prior project submittal forms from Resilience 2050. That should help you out, as well as a list of the major capital projects from Resilience 2050. Okay. New this year that you've seen several presentations on is an opportunity to submit standalone active transportation projects that will be scored and prioritized alongside the roadway and transit projects. Our prior scoring our current scoring methodology for highway and transit is not applicable to active transportation projects. So we embarked on a UPWP project to develop a new scoring methodology, as well as a submittal form for those standalone active transportation projects. And when I say that, I mean shared use paths, trails, bike ped bridges that are not connected to an LRTP highway or transit project. Of course, most highway and transit projects also have bicycle and pedestrian elements, but those are incorporated, included, and scored as part of those highway or transit projects. So we're really talking about separate standalone active transportation. We don't have a designated cost threshold or anything, but we're thinking of, in the context of the long-range plan, larger scale projects that are anticipated to use federal funds from 2032 to 2055. And so as an example, I sent you the priority active transportation projects that were included in Resilience 2050. Now, these projects weren't scored, but they were included as part of set-aside funding that was part of the LRTP. So these are the kinds of projects that we anticipate being submitted. Of course, you have your own jurisdictional priorities and can submit your priorities as they stand today. But these are kind of example projects that we thought might be submitted. So in terms of project submittal and the proposed project scoring, you'll remember that there's a policy component of your project submissions. We've created a policy component for the active transportation projects that mirrors highway and transit. So you can submit up to 5 high priority roadway and transit projects, or 2 high priority and 2 highway active transportation projects receiving up to 30 points. Can submit up to 4 high priority roadway and transit and 4 medium priority roadway and transit and 2 medium priority active transportation receiving 20 points. And then no limit on the low priority projects receiving 10 points. Projects receive an additional 10-point bump if they have existing funding support for a total policy score of 40 points that is in your control. In terms of the technical score, BMC applies the technical scoring methodology that will be considered next month. But to aid you in the technical scoring component and to see how your projects might score, we developed some really handy summary web apps to aid your project submittals. There's one for highway and transit projects. There's one for the active transportation projects. There's a tab that summarizes the scoring criteria for each goal area. There are applicable layers included, GIS layers that will allow you to zoom in and kind of see, for example, in this slide, the fatal and injury crashes near your highway project. Anyway, this could help you give an idea of how your project might score, and we hope this is very useful for you. In terms of next steps, so obviously the call for projects is open right now. BMC staff are available to assist you with the project submittal form, to assist you with scoring questions. We take what's on the submittal form and apply the scoring criteria, so it does impact the project score. So please ask us if you have any questions. We have several upcoming BRTB resolutions. One for the financial forecast that you saw presented today. The goals and strategies will also be considered in May. These have been previously presented several times. We worked on them in the fall and then also presented them in February of 2026. I have provided a link to that presentation here. The proposed scoring methodology will also be considered in May. That's been presented multiple times as well. We worked on the active transportation scoring methodology. I've linked a December 2025 presentation to that. And we discussed proposed updates to the highway and transit scoring methodology in January and February, and I've linked a presentation there. And immediately following that, we'll be working on project scoring and cost estimation in June, July, and probably extending into August. We do ask that you provide the latest and greatest cost estimate for your projects in current dollars. However, MTA and SHA will again be providing cost estimates for all transit and roadway projects respectively, and that helps to ensure a consistent methodology is applied during cost estimation. So that is all I have for you on the LRTP and Region Next. I'm happy to answer any questions or contact me later.
Thank you, Zach. Are there any questions? All right. The next committee meeting will be virtual on Tuesday, May 5th. Are there any other questions or business to come before the committee? Hearing none, I ask for a motion to close the meeting.
Hartford County will move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Sam. Hartford County.
MDOT will second.
Thank you, Dan from MDOT. Everyone have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.